a color tessellation. I've made my shape that I'm going to tessellate. I want to make sure I'm moving it up and over to represent. I know from before, but if you don't know, I measured how far up it needs to go with the measure tool, so I know from top to bottom of this that it's the full 72 points it's going to go over, and I know from this side cut out to that side it's 36. So I'm going to copy, Shift Command V so it pastes right on top. And when I move it, it's going to move over the 36 points and negative 72, which represents this pattern growing up. What I love is if I copy and go Shift Command V, it will recreate that pattern. I'm going to do a grid of 3 by 3 because I'm going to do a 2-color shape. I can click and go Command C, copy and paste it. It goes right on top. I know that a box is 72 across. If you don't, use your measure tool to measure. And when I go to move it, I'm going to move across the horizon 72, but not up. Just want to take grid. And again, copy it right in the same place, Shift Command V. It remembers my measurement for me, so I just hit move. Now we're going to add color. If you open your swatches, which is usually hidden here, or you go to Window, Swatches, you'll get this box. These are some basic color principles that you could choose from. But this little arrow right here is a whole world of color if you go to your swatch library. There's themes, there's brightnesses, there's gradients, there's color. You can choose anything. When you choose one, you can scroll through all of them. Maybe I'm going to think of something that reflects my culture that I'm going to focus on. If you think, oh, ancient sounded good, but it doesn't really do it, you can actually click the arrows through to see which one better represents. I think this one's going to be good for me because it has some blues and some creams. So I'm going to choose that color as one and this one as another. And once I have the two, I'm actually going to click the one of the rest of the box I want to fill with those colors and hold Shift to create my pattern of colors. Using my eyedropper, I can grab that same blue. So black cursor, click, hold Shift and click, and you click multiple. Grab your eyedropper, click that. For my outline color, you could choose to turn it off by grabbing it all and saying no outline. On this one, you can say none. I'm actually going to add a little bit of a light gray, so I think I'll add a cool element to it. So this is my pattern. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to create a swatch essentially representing this pattern by grabbing all of it. So I grab my black cursor, click, and drag over it, or I can hit Command A. That's all I have. Object, pattern, make. The problem with this is that because my shape's on a diagonal, if you look at my shape, it has this space between all of it because the box that's patterning is going from the furthest measurement to the furthest measurement across. So it's leaving this empty space because that's where the next thing, even though it ends here, the next one starts there. So we need to minimize the gap between it. We're going to zoom into that first one we made. And we're going to use this icon here on the pattern guide. Looks like a smiley face. When we select it, these nodes on the box become active. And this is going to let us frame this center one here in a perfect square. So I'm going to frame it from the beginning of this sheep sets to the end of this one. So it creates a perfect square. And what would follow below is the next color. Same deal if I go over. I'm going to make sure I'm going to go to the end of one and then up to the end of the other, which will create the shape for me. So you see, as I drag it, I'm able to create my shape. So it starts mimicking this perfect shape. And then I'm going to move this over because we have an extra layer of the white one coming in. So I'm going to close it at the same point. And it's going to mimic that center square all the way around. So it creates this grid. So as long as you're going from, see, one guy's to the other guy's, so it's covering the hole, but it's not covering the whole one here. If you have it going twice, what's going to happen is you're going to get this weird overlap. It's going to look wonky because I went too far in the pattern. I've gone too short. Oh, I lost it. Undo. Voila. If you think it's not working for you, cancel and restart. Because sometimes it's hard to see the pattern as it moves. But once you see that it does the correct color pattern you want to mimic, then you know you're good. You can adjust it as many times as you'd like to make sure you've properly gotten the pattern. Because maybe you think it's good, but it's not. And undo is your friend. When you're happy, you hit save, done. It looks like when you exit, your pattern's not there anymore. But what's really cool is that if I make a giant box and I go to my color swatches, just like you would add a color to your box and the outline, inside, go. Just like you would add a color to your box, I can choose my pattern, and it creates a giant swatch of my pattern.